So good morning. Today we have our Leetcode daily question 1905, which is count sub island. So this is how it is given, that we are given two m into n binary matrices, grid 1 and grid 2. This is grid 1, this is grid 2, containing 0 representing water, which means this 0 is water, this 0 is water, and this 1 represent land, this 1 is land, this 1 is land. Similarly in this case, that 1 is land and 0 is water. And an island is a group of ones connected diagonally, horizontally, which means, and vertically, like this and this only. If it is present diagonally, then it's not an island. So we have to return, so any cell outside the grid is considered water cell. An island in grid 2 is considered in grid, this is grid 2, this is grid 1. So in grid 2, an island is considered a sub island if there is an island in grid 1. Suppose this is an island because it is all 1, and it will be called a sub island if it is present over here also. So we have to return such total number of sub island present in grid 2. So this is one of the example, that this is one of the island present over here, and similarly it is present over here in grid 1 also. So this is the count 1 for the island number 1. Then we have one island over here, but nothing is present over here, so it will be not a sub island. We have one more one present over here, and one is present over here also, so it will be count to 2. Similarly, there is one island present over here, but it is not present over here, so it will not be a sub island. So then again, this is the third sub island, because it is present over here also in grid 1, so it will be a sub island. Sub island count will be 3. So when we come over here, we have already counted it like this way previously, so we will not recalculate it. So the total number of sub islands in grid 2 will be 3. So now I will move forward to the dry run, how we are going to tackle this question. So suppose these are the all grid 1 and grid 2 present in this example. I have just made them by hand. So what we will do is, we will do a DFS in grid 2, we will do a DFS in grid 2, and we will tally it from grid 1 whether it is present similarly in grid 1 or not. For example, we will come over here and we will do the DFS. For the DFS, we will have us, before starting a DFS, we will make a counter or a flag which will be initially true, and if by doing DFS it turns into false, so we will not increase the count, which means that it is not a sub island. Let me give you an example, then you will understand clearly. We start over here, and this whole DFS will go like this, and we will keep on checking in grid 1 also that it is also present over here. So this is valid, initially was true, and after doing the DFS, and it was also present over here, so it will be true also. So after DFS, we will make the count is equals to 1, and then we will mark it visited, because we have already visited and we don't want to restart the DFS for the same island again. So after that, the DFS will start from here. DFS of this point here will be 1, but here 1 is not present, only 0 is present, so DFS will happen over here. but the is valid sub island counter or the flag will be false, and when we will come out of the DFS we will not increase this counter, it will be still 1. So this is already being visited, and when we come over here for this portion, we start the DFS and this will be initially true. We start DFS and it is present over here. DFS ends and this was true till end, so we will increase the counter by 2. Then the DFS will again start from here. So DFS will go over this whole portion and it will be marked visited, but this was not, these were not 1, so it will be false because it was initially true, and it will be turned into false because it was not a valid sub island. So counter will also not increase this time. So now the question continues, and it will come over here, this point, this one. So when it comes over here, it will check parallel in grid 1. So this DFS, and this is also this is the DFS, and we will check over here 1 is present whole time in that DFS, so it is valid was initially true, and it will be also true. So my answer will turn into 3. So next time we will move forward for the another DFS. We come over here, but it's already being visited last time when we did this DFS, so we will not start the DFS. And how now all the questions will end, all the DFS are ended, and we have our counter 3. Let me just now quickly take you to the code of it. So initially we took the counter to 0, and we have our grid. This is our row, this is our column, and this is the sub island, and we have initiated a visited array. It can be boolean or integer. The value will just fluctuate between 0 and 1. 0 will be false and 1 will be true. It will be of size row m and n, which and m and n, row and column. So we will traverse over m and n. This represent over grid 2. We are traversing over grid 2 right now. So if grid 2 at any portion the island is found on grid 2 and it is not visited, so then we will start our DFS process. And before that, initially the sub island was true, we will do the DFS, and while doing DFS this sub island can become false also. So after coming out of the DFS, we will check whether the sub island, whether the DFS for the island which we started the DFS was a sub island or not. If it is true, we will increase the counter. If it was false, so we will do nothing, and at last we will return the counter. So now let us check how this DFS would work. So how DFS would work is, we have the pointer at which we are right now. Suppose like this is the matrices grid 2. So if we are present over here, we have ij00. So, and this is the boolean sub island. Make sure you pass it using pass by address, so that if it changes, so it can, in DFS, if the value changes, we can replicate over all recursions. So we have our visited array grid 1 and grid 2. We will extract our row count and column count. This is the base case, that if the pointer, if the I go before 0, like if our point at our current node goes above the matrices, and then if j is greater than 0, which means that if our row goes out of like our column goes out of our matrices, these four condition are for out of bound conditions, and then we will also check that if it's already being visited, if the island in the grid 2 is also already being visited, we will again return. Or if the grid 2 is water, like in grid 2 we are traversing over here and this is water, so we will not traverse or we will not do anything, we will just go back. In case we visit an island, then we will make it visited. Over here we make sure that if grid 1 is 0, like if grid 2, if we come over here, this means that grid 2 is not equals to 0, which means grid 2 is definitely equals to 1 and there is an island present over here. But if parallel to that, in grid 1 there is nothing present over there, so we made that this sub island, this is not a sub island, so we made it false, and then we make our other recursion call. So this is how this whole thing would work, and this is the whole code. You can have a look over here. This is the end of the